Red Angel came out in 1966, is directed by Yasuzô Masumura, who recently did a couple of other Arrow release titles, which were Irizume and Blind Beast, titles that I've still not gotten around to as yet, but after watching this movie I'm more inclined to get to them sooner rather than later. This movie is set in 1939. We have Japan in the war. They are suffering greatly, and we get to see this through the eyes of Nurse Nishi, who is a young nurse who gets sent to an army hospital dealing with lots of men who are either lost limbs or are waiting to be back to full health to get sent back to the front line, which is a death sentence for them as well. And what we have here is horrible characters who are seemingly losing their humanity throughout this war. And we get to see Nishi as she grows as a person and is put under severe tragedies and pressures, and ultimately is trying to find love in this situation of any form, trying to find a little bit of happiness throughout this horrible sequences that are going throughout her life. And very early on you see an attack on Nishi by the very patients that she's trying to help. It's a shocking scene, and the ramifications from that are remarkably mild for everyone involved. You know, Nishi is kind of stuck with what's happened to her, and the people who did it seem to have no justice put upon them other than being sent back to the front lines to put that off. And then we kind of see an evolution of Nishi as she is sent to the front lines herself, as she is forced to deal with soldiers coming back and more brutality being put upon them. This is where she meets Dr. Okabe, a kind of older man, a doctor who is trying his best to do what he can, but even in his own words, he has two options: amputate a limb, cripple these people and make them have a poorer life, or kill them. That's his two options as a doctor. This is someone who is trained to help and save lives, and is given two options, neither of which is something that anybody would like. And you see him just going through his work, just amputating limb after limb, discarding these people's body parts as though they're trash. There's one moment where we linger on a trash bin, which is just full of arms that have just been lopped off and threw away, no longer any use to anyone. All the way through it, you've got all these disparaging comments about the effects of war, the destruction of war, the government's idea of not allowing the results of the war to permeate through to society. A lot of the crippled veterans are sent away to sanitariums, they're moved into hospitals, they're not allowed to go back to civilization because they can't allow the regular people to see the effects of war and how detrimental they are to a lot of the young soldiers' lives who are sent out to die. But it's the relationship between Nishi and Okabe who really sparks a small moment of hope. Two characters who are seemingly losing their humanity throughout this. Dr. Okabe is someone who is struggling to deal with this. He doesn't like the choices, he's just trying to go through the motions and do what he can. And he has a morphine addiction. He needs morphine to sleep, to get away from the nightmares, to get away from the tragedies that he's causing throughout the day. And he kind of latches on to Nishi as a kindred spirit, someone he can sit, have some wine with, who can help administer the morphine and allow him to sleep peacefully for a few hours. And it's a connection between these two because sexuality isn't brought into it at all. There's no need for it. It's not something that's kind of mentioned by Okabe at all. Initially you think it's going to go that way, but it never materializes, and you find that this character is just about company, just about finding someone to talk to get a little bit of distance from the daily torturous job that they are going through. And these people have such wonderful conversations that you feel a connection really start to grow between them. You really start to feel that Nishi and Okabe have something special, and you only kind of see it come to fruition later on in the movie as Nishi really tries to push it forward, and Okabe understands that these things are fleeting, They're in a time where life is so minimalised and trivialised that it could just disappear in the blink of an eye, and doesn't want to start anything, whereas Nishi's like, let's grab onto any kind of positivity in this world that we can possibly get our hands on, even for the briefest of moments. And I love that aspect of it. It's a dark and harsh movie. It's a traumatic movie to watch. There is some horrific things that go on throughout this film, particularly near the end when you're seeing the effects of war. You feel as a female within this army that Nishi is constantly alert and under danger from not only the invading forces, but from her own people that she's trying to look after. You feel that she is in danger of being brutalised and attacked at any moment, which has got a constant sense of fear I had throughout the movie. There are moments where Nishi tries to comfort and help a wounded soldier, and it becomes a more personal relationship, but one that's ultimately not going to last, and just more on the sympathetic rather than the needs, particularly on Nishi's front. I really liked Red Angel, and the more I think about it, the more it kind of sticks with me. The more kind of downbeat movie it is. It is a kind of torturous film as you see some of the horrific things that have happened to people and how it's affecting the living people within the movie as well. I think this was a stunning release from Arrow Video. I really enjoyed Red Angel a lot. Available now on the Arrow player if you're interested in checking it out. If not, it's out on Blu-ray disc as well, and I would say yes, it's worth picking up, especially if you're a fan of Masumura, whom I think I am definitely going to check out Blind Beast and Irizume next. Love to know your thoughts on Red Angel if you've watched it, if you're going to check it out. I do suggest doing that. There's other videos up here that you can see of my content if you're interested. Click the like button if you have a second. Join the Patreon and membership program if you really want to help me this year. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.